Welcome to the Phillip Wylie Show. Take a look behind the curtain of professional hacking and hear compelling discussions with guests from diverse backgrounds who share a common curiosity and passion for challenges and their job. And now, here's your host, offensive security professional, educator, mentor, and author, Phillip Wylie.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Phillip Wylie Show. I'm very excited to have Joe Brinkley, aka the Blind Hacker, joining me. Joe does a lot of stuff for the community, and that's kind of how we met through InfoSec Twitter, and then got to meet up at the conferences in person, and regularly see him at Hack SpaceCon, and saw him at RISIS last year. So very happy to have you back on. I've been trying to get you scheduled, but you probably relate to this because as many people we know in the community, you just kind of forget, or something comes up and you get someone scheduled or whatever. So finally glad to have you scheduled on a new show.
I appreciate it, man.
So how are things going in your world?
Kind of the usual. We've got a lot going on. There's been a lot of buildup here in the industry for the things that companies have been doing, new jobs coming out. Working on myself over at as the director of offensive security over at OnDefend in Jacksonville, Florida. We won a contract with Haystack ID and Google Mandiant to do some of the United States data security for TikTok. I'm gonna kind of not talk too much about that because it's still an ongoing project, and of course we don't want to let anything out. But it's been fun building up to this. I gotta say it's first time in a long time in my career I've had to sit down and really learn some new things. There's different technologies, different CI/CD pipelines. Coming from a security guy who was in a developer cluster building out, now I get to kind of see that in reverse. So I said it's good to reinforce my archaic knowledge of agile and waterfall development kind of still work. And I say archaic because some folks like to say, oh, agile, it's so new. I think the first agile book I read was 2008. I don't think 2008's new anymore, if you know what I mean.
No. I agree. So before we get started too far, if you wouldn't mind sharing your hacker origin story, kind of how you got started out.
So, I've told the story a couple times. The ultimate case study here is kind of grew up like the typical 90s hacker, was not well off, came from a very poor family. I decided I wanted to be able to play video games. And so throughout the years of hacking together computers, literally from found computers on the street or computer parts or inherited computers from family members, put things together, and then really started to get into hardware hacking in the early 2000s because I couldn't afford the latest CPU to play this little game called Command & Conquer. And so I had to literally, start drawing with a number one pencil traces on my motherboard, and then use wires to pull power to overclock my CPU. And then from there, it kind of went, oh, hey, look, there's this other cool stuff you could do in these. I was doing the nerd chat bombs and AOL hacking and AOL and Super Mad Cow, script kid stuff. And, there was a little bump in with the law there in the high school days, but, all was forgiven ultimately. So and then when I got out of high school, I didn't know what to do with my life. Wanted to go to a training facility because I started losing my vision when I was 16. Went to a training facility at almost 19, I guess. And then, sat down and I was building the computer and I was installing the OS in front of this person who my adjudicator, whoever they were, the situation was one of those ones it was so foggy. I'm a teenager. I'm at this university and this adult's telling me what to do, and I'm putting all this stuff together, and then they turn around and go, oh, I don't think you'd actually make it here. And I believed them for a few years, and then I was quoted as saying, ultimately, I'm doing what I'm doing because after a couple of years of not doing anything computer based, I said, why am I not? Because I let some person who I don't know, who doesn't care about me, influence a decision that could potentially, erode the rest of my life. And I'm a smart guy. I'm, kind of intelligent to a degree, I guess, clever, definitely. But it was, hey, I really want to be doing this. And then I started in IT, uh, got a couple jobs doing at nonprofits because they were a little bit more lenient with the disability. They were like, oh, well, can you do the job? And you're like, yeah. Whereas the big companies, they were like, you have no experience. What do you mean you could do this job? Well, I was, 17-year-old writing scripts for automating the reinstall of my Windows systems, and so I could play video games, and but they're like, oh, but that doesn't translate. Well, it really actually does, especially later on in the years. Now I'm scripting all the time to pretty much do the same thing: set up stuff, CI/CD pipelines, farm, Kubernetes clusters, and building all that out. So then I got into it, and then one day somebody said, hey, by the way, you could get paid to do pen testing. It's actually a job title, and the rest of it follows my resume along as I built a resume out of actually doing it for the government and legit purposes.
Very cool. So before we get into the good stuff, a lot of listeners are trying to break in the industry. So what advice would you give for someone that's wanting to get into offensive security and do some pen testing? What would your education path be that you'd recommend?
In 2024, I would say it's not so dissimilar from the path that I see many folks, even like yourself and I, have taken. It's still a lot easier to come into InfoSec with an IT or some kind of computer science background. But now folks who are like, I don't want to do all that. Well, that's fine. You in 2024, you can do that. There's a path of certification and education. And the most important thing that I tell folks is, I don't care who you go to learn something. I don't care what certifications you have, but when you come to me and say, Joe, I'm a pen tester now, I say, awesome. And I interview you. I'm going to interview you on networking standards, like what is TCP? How does a three-way handshake work? How does an SSL handshake work? What's the difference between a TCP and an SSL handshake? I ask those questions, and then the next thing I'm going to ask you is like, all right, what was the last thing you hacked, or what was the last thing you got a shell on? Were you in a try and hack me? Were you in a hack the box? Were you in an environment? Were you doing this professionally with a company, with friends, with whatever? And then I'm going to kind of hear your process. Then I'm going to reverse back through it for the interview purposes. And what I try to do when mentoring and telling folks that is, again, I want to start helping folks create this idea of, you don't have to have all the certifications in the world, but you have to have a fundamental knowledge of what IT is, then a foundational knowledge of cybersecurity, and then at least working your way towards some kind of expertise, right? We always talk about when we kind of, I've given this analogy so many times. I don't know if you've ever given it, Phil, but you're like, oh, what is pen testing? You go, oh, well, imagine a house, and I walk up and I try to open a door or push up on a window. Does it move? Right. So I take that all the way back to kind of that foundations. Well, first of all, to me, a foundation is, I need you to build a house, be able to build a house first. I need you to know what a hammer is. I need you to know what a screwdriver is. And then, you add that to a bucket, and I call that bucket the capability bucket. And then, so, okay, cool. Well, how do I use that to get in? Well, you've got to have a lot of capabilities to be a pen tester, to be offensive security, because you've got to script, you've got to write. You don't have to code, but you do have to be able to automate some of your work to these days, because again, there's a degree of a lot of building, and things got to go fast these days. We got budgets. We got to make sure we meet these budgets. And I would love to say that the 40-hour pen test, isn't a thing, but these days it's becoming more and more a thing, I feel like. So to prepare the next generation of folks through, again, my business myself is called Next Gen Red Team. So to prepare those next gen of red teamers, you got to say, hey, I'm going to need you to learn fast. I'm going to need you. I don't care who the certification's through. If you get it through a degree program, if you get it from, Net Plus, Security Plus, Pen Test Plus, hack the box, try and hack me cert to an OSCP to a SANS or something higher. But you've got to have this overarching projection. And if you want it to be there fast, it's literally going to be, not a smooth curve. It's going to be a big wild blast off. So you better be able to retain that knowledge.
Yeah, so kind of before the show, we were kind of discussing some topics, and I kind of like some of the stuff that you're commenting on, how pen testing has been said to be commoditized now, and just kind of share your thoughts on that. And then maybe we'll get into some of kind of the evolution, kind of how things used to be and how it is now.
So, I think that there, to a degree in our industry, the idea now of the $40,000 pen test is seeming to be used to be easy. You could go out, hey, I'll do your pen test and help you meet your bi-yearly edification for whatever certification body. Nowadays it's yearly, and because of budgets and inflation and economy, I couldn't get somebody to pay me $40,000 right now at a small medium business if I went there and offered half the services for free too. Like, oh, I'll do $100,000 worth of work, and they're like, no, that's fine. I just need I need that $9.99 pen test. There's a lot of companies that have come out, onshore, offshore companies that are doing the Netflix of pen testing. You pay your $9.99 and you get unlimited pen testing a month. I'm kind of being over dramatic, but it's driving a point home that there are folks who try to do that, who and now who have become into the business space, and that they're like, well, that's what I want. And so I think the idea of commoditized pen testing and the era of big bang for your buck pen testing is going of the wayside. It's becoming significantly harder to find folks who want to pay a lot of money just for, oh, it's just a simple pen test. You're only hacking my network.
Yeah, and it's sometimes that limited time, such a short time window, and really doesn't give you that much time to really dig deep.
Yeah, and when you're doing a shallow pen test, to me again, having done this for 15 years, like more than that now, almost, but what are you getting out of that actually? What are you getting out of a shallow pen test? Now, sure, if the company's just doing the $9.99 pen test, they do a vulnerability assessment and then hit those vulnerabilities with Metasploit or Rapid7 or some tooling framework, exploit pack or something, and then they go, here you go. But when you come to some of these other pen test companies, again, come to companies like mine and other commodity and boutique and bespoke companies, you're going to get a custom level of work. We're going to try to get in on your Active Directory. And frankly, before we even do all that nowadays, the first thing we ask about is, what do you want? What do you want? Phil, today I'm coming to you. I've got the hacker skill set. What do you want? And you're going to be like, oh, well, I want to know if I'm susceptible to ransomware. Okay, I can do that without doing a pen test. Specifically, I can too. Again, hint, plug, on Defend, we have a tool called Blind Spot. You're familiar with it. We build a breach and adversary simulation tool, or now we call it an RDV, or ransomware defense validation tool. Some of the things that we've built into the tool are helping automate, to a degree, some of the services you would get during a pen test / and/or a ransomware assessment. But then we also go, hey, what's your security stack look like? Oh, did you know we can hook into those products and help you score your service? We could tell you, we ran that command at 720, but you didn't detect it till 727. That's a 7-minute gap. Where did those logs go? Let's find those things. That is where I think today we could say, hey, I'm not commoditizing pen test anymore. The difference I'm making on your network using tooling like that, or doing an Active Directory, full on assessment. Hey, you've got some weak profiles. Hey, you've got some tickets that haven't been churned in 10 years. How many employees have come and gone in 10 years, and maybe they've left with a certificate or a golden ticket? How many times has something like that happened? And so we can come in, and now I think the value we provide is long-term security too. I don't want to just be your security vendor one and done. I want to be your security partner. I want to understand your network. I want to know what keeps you up at night. And if it's ransomware, cool, let's test for ransomware. If it's vulnerabilities, well, guess what? We'll do the vulnerability scan, we'll do the vulnerability assessment, and then I'm going to map your vulnerabilities to the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and I'm going to tell you, hey, there's no heat map here, there's no risk, or hey, there's a lot of risk. You really should patch these things. And then help you develop out of that, though, where I think our pen tester value comes in is out of that. What can you take away? Can you develop a better, more robust security awareness program? Can you develop a better policy? Hey, maybe 6-character passwords aren't the best anymore. Maybe we do 12-character passwords. I know that's to some employees, oh my God, they just doubled my password. But we've also, well, I don't remember the math, but cryptography would tell you, oh, we've exponented your security, right? So I think that's where we can now really provide a lot more value.
So one of the things too is just seeing how, what are your kind of thoughts on why this has happened? Do you think part of that's because compliance-based pen testing, that people just need the check mark, that they're just trying to go the cheap route?
There's that. Certainly there's that, because, well, now, not just compliance-based pen testing. I like that you brought that up. Compliance, very important, right? If you have a standard, you meet the standard, you could say that, hey, globally, we are ISO. Hey, globally, we are CIS. Globally, we are SOC 2. That's really good. That helps your clients further know that if their data's with you, you're secure, right? That's great. The thing that I see also driving that, though, Phil, insurance, cyber insurance. I love the idea of cyber insurance because, I mean, if you take a look back at Target, I don't remember what the final bill was for the Target hack. The biggest breach that was originally the biggest breach whenever, right? The early first, one of the first Target, the massive hack that kind of helped get us cybersecurity guys kind of on the board, in the news, on the TV. Ultimately billions maybe, right? A lot of money. Okay, well, then you have these other attacks. You've got the, other companies. I don't want to go too specific because I know a lot of folks in some of these companies, but they have to spend a lot of money. The government mandated that if you don't spend this money and you get hacked again, you're in trouble, right? Those kinds of things. And it's like, okay, so Target, we know some of the other internet providers, other search engines out there, they've all been compromised. They've all been there. But so cyber insurance, okay, cool. Well, what does that do? Well, we all know insurance is essentially you mitigating your risk. I'm out driving, I bump somebody's bumper. It's $3,000 to replace a bumper these days. Jesus criminy. I don't have $3,000 sitting in my bank account. Insurance, oh, you guys have $3,000 for me. I have to pay $100 deductible, but meanwhile, you're paying $200 a month. Okay, it's about $200 a month. That's $2,400 a year. That pays for the bumper. But then, what if you get in a serious accident? It's $50,000 to replace the back end of the car. It's $100,000 because somebody was physically injured. It's $1 million because somebody got really injured. Do you have $1 million in there? I don't. So cybersecurity wise, we have insurance. You bring up insurance, you say, hey, I need insurance. Excellent idea. What do you cover? Up to $1 million, up to, again, running my own small business, even for education purposes and the occasional side work that I get. I carry minimum $1 million policy. Why? Well, again, dude, that's $1 million is not hard to stack up these days, especially if you knock over somebody's backup, you knock over somebody's data set, you knock over their ability to work for 2 days, 3 days. Well, you go do work on a law firm. Lawyers charge $500 an hour, right? Well, easy, right? Okay, 10 lawyers, $5 an hour, $500 an hour, $500 an hour, plus the 10 employees in the back room, and then 10 overheads. Oh my gosh, you're already looking at $300,000-$400,000 for a 2-day knockover, right? So I see now those insurance companies said, hey, yeah, we'll cover you. Boom, here you go. First few breaches happened. They went, what are you doing? We are paying through our nose right now. We're supposed to be making money off of this. It's insurance. This should be the biggest scam. I mean, liability on the planet. Why are we losing money a lot? And they go, not just because compliance, but because people aren't actually securing the network. They're able to go to CIS, they're able to go to USGCB, they're able to go to ISO and say, look, we meet this policy. We've got 12 character passwords. Yeah, but if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0, 1, 2, that's 13. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's our password. Yep, that was it. Oh, your passwords, uh, in the RockU password list. You didn't audit this? What do you mean you didn't audit this? Well, we don't have a pen test team. Ha. Well, now insurance said you have to have that yearly pen test. That's why too. So not only do you have to get it when you get your yearly, bi-yearly, every 4 years, whatever compliance framework you chose, but insurance now says, I want a yearly security activity ran on your network. That's why people are looking for that budget-friendly alternative, because now it's commodity now. If my insurance tells me I need it, just like my insurance tells me I need to have blinkers, my insurance tells me I need to not get in 10 accidents a year, then I have to listen to the insurance company. Well, if it's for insurance reasons, I don't want to pay 40 grand to mitigate $100,000 hack. Well, what's $1 million? Okay, well now, you start carrying these larger numbers. Oh man, it's $1 billion to get hacked these days. That's why. So people are like, I need to stay budget friendly because now I have to have potentially 2 pen tests a year, one for compliance, one for insurance. So that's why people are trying to come down on that budget. And now people rotate vendors so often because there's where pen test companies are a dime a dozen at this point, fish in a barrel. You reach in, pull out the next vendor, drop that one back in. The likeliness of you reaching in and pulling out that same fish, very low, unless there's not a lot of fish. But unfortunately, there's a lot of fish in this barrel now.
So as far as the practitioners, and you've got such limited time to perform these tests, what's kind of your advice on to be able to get the most out of that limited amount of time?
That goes back to it's 2024. You're asking me how to get in the industry, and I'm going to tell you now, I will hire someone who has 1 year of pen test experience, but has 2 years of automation, 2 years of Docker. You've got those other skill sets now. I don't necessarily need the IT background. I'll take somebody who's a developer who's got a couple other skills. I need to be able to say, hey, in the first 24 hours on a pen test, can you deploy a vulnerability assessment capability? I don't care what it is. Is it Tenable? Is it Nessus? Is it Insight VM? Is it this company, that company? I need you as the expert to be able to say within 24 hours, I have a somewhat accurate representation of their network. And then in that, again, if we're talking, I got to do this in a 40-hour work week now. All right, so what else? Okay, well then I need you to also be able to, in that first 24 hours, kind of start looking at exploits already. Oh, well, what is the other way to do that? I gave that talk, I think it was, I don't remember which conference it was now, Phil. I gave a talk about, 30 minutes, zero to hero. You get on a network now. I was like, I don't even use vulnerabilities. I don't even scan for these things anymore. I drop responder. I get a hash. I NTL and relay exit. I put it through a SOX proxy. I SAM dump it. I get these passwords. I'm between 0 and 30 minutes, I'm your domain admin. Okay. Well, how do we stop that? Well, you got to turn off SMB v1. You got to enable SMB signing. You got to, again, now we're talking additional policies. Well, how do I do that fast? Well, automation, orchestration, tooling, that includes, I don't like the idea of the automated pen test verbiage, right? Because it's like, well, what are you really getting out of that? Well, you're getting a computer. Well, no, if now you have a specialist like us, look at tooling that's automated and go, all right, this would be our next step. And then you can go to the tooling and say, yeah, that's actually there. I think the point for us being humans still is our expert capability to say, yeah, let's poke that hole a little bit more. Let's scratch that itch because there's definitely something behind this wallpaper here. Oh, there's the bodies. Definitely, if you're not using AI, automation, orchestration as a entry level pen tester at this point, as a senior level pen tester at this point, as a offensive security expert, such as well, again, my full long title, offensive security director of offensive security innovation research and advanced testing. Guess what? My research and advanced testing comes from me committing to sitting down with AI occasionally, going, "Tell me how to do this. Teach me, senpai." And I learned something, and then I go teach the AI.
So as far as like all the automation and just kind of how pen testing is coming, so out of the pen testing realm, kind of what phase do you think we're in? What generation of pen testing?
You're picking on me from my statement before. So before the call, I'd say generation one hackers were these 80s, 90s nerds and their BBSs dialing into things, getting information that way. If like I said, I would say I'm probably really a Gen 2 hacker again. Most of my script kiddie stuff happened in the 90s, and then I evolved into like, why does it actually work though? There in the when I was really in high school in the 99 to 2003. So that's I learned a lot. I learned why the Windows operating system works. So I'd say I'm probably a Gen 2 hacker if I had to kind of put that in a frame. But then, so the next kind of big jump that I saw was once we left XP, there's a lot of exploits for XP, a lot more than there were for prior systems. And you're like, oh my gosh, I remember some of those, and then again, you start talking about everything like CDC did, Black Orpheus, this, that, and the other. And as a lot of those guys, probably Gen 1, Gen 2 hackers that, have kind of just kept on going. And you're like, okay, cool. And then so you start talking, all right, so then the big viruses and the big things like big malware networks started to be, C2s were kind of finally used. Like we knew the words, but like now that we started doing that, I think that was kind of probably 2004 or 5. So maybe that's like Gen 3. Gen 4 is kind of that this middle era of the late 2000s, I would think. And then 5 was probably, the next 5 years. 6 is the next 5 years, and so we're probably 7th or 8th generation kind of now. So everybody coming up now would be like 7th or 8th gen hacker. Like you don't have to build your tools in a batch file. You don't have to run things. You don't have to do all this weird compiling and download weird tooling. A lot of it's kind of pre-done. You can go to GitHub, and one of the things that I get from some of these elitist hackers sometimes is, back in my day, I had to compile all my exploits. Well, why compile it when I can just create a CI/CD pipeline or some kind of automation orchestration? You take that source code on that GitHub and put it in my GitHub, already compiled for me. Thanks. Okay, well, that's how are you learning all the code then? Well, to a degree, some of us like, hey man, it's built by other hackers. I gotta kind of trust your code, and if you get a reputation for including canary tokens and things in your code, that gets known. Sir, I certainly don't use certain people's code. Good friends of mine, but I will not use their code. Because I know that there might be something that pings some, oh, this was just compiled in this place or that place or this, and they get pinged to a server. I'm like, no, I don't need to be an IP address on your server. And so, yeah, you should learn how to read enough to know those things. But if you're still learning, you're still getting into it, yeah, you've got to trust that a tool sent to you on a GitHub as you read through it is fairly critical. And so, just like with programming languages, right? We talk about early generation programming languages like generation 4 or 5 programming languages now being mostly GUI based, and you don't have to know assembly. Well, I don't know assembly myself. I do know enough C# to be dangerous. Even though, there's a photo out there of me. It says caution blind hacker doesn't C#. But it was a good joke, but there's, I don't know, man. Whether it's 6th or 7th or 8th generation hackers, every time I see a massive evolution, I remember the change from Backtrack 5 being released at ShmooCon, and I was like, oh my God, we're literally all passing out thumb drives because we trusted each other. Oh yeah, this is going to be totally cool. We're all handing, guys are copying the thumb drives that they just got from the OffSec booth, and they're transferring them around, and some people are hooking up big USB hubs. Well, you had to trust people. Well, okay, I don't know how much you want to do that these days, right? Well, now we don't have USB hubs. We go, oh, here's the go to this FTP site. There's the virtual image. Yeah, they don't boot their laptop into Kali anymore. They just simply go, Kali, boot for me. And boop, boop, it's in a little screen on their computer, right? So that's how things have changed. So I don't know. Like I said, I think we're probably in a 6th or 7th generation solidly, maybe even an 8th generation, like maybe next year. Well, now AI, though, I don't know when, 2000, was it November 2002? ChatGPT gets released to the world. AI's everywhere. Everybody's got it now. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, did that change the generation for us? Again, I'm hesitant to say yes right now, but we very well could have. I don't know. There, that's my long answer to that, Phil.
It's kind of interesting about how this plays out, and you've been at it long enough that you'd see that, but it's kind of interesting now that there's so much more access to education in tools compared to before, because I talked to some people that started out in the BBS era, and not just anyone would show you how to hack. No one just would always share the tools, and it's a little harder to get access to that compared to now. It's pretty easy to find this stuff, easy to find education on it compared to the way it was. But it's also interesting to compare and contrast that now the environments that you're having to test, because, back in XP and 2000 days, like you mentioned, that stuff was really easy. But now you've got, bypassing EDR, doing evasion and stuff is a lot more required and complicated than it was then. So it's really interesting that you see more tools now and all this, but the systems are getting more complex, making it more difficult.
Well, and chatting with some of the guys I've seen around for a long time, some of the folks I've seen around for a long time too, it's funny because we start talking about what was old is new, and so there's occasionally still this resurgence of like, oh, by the way, like old command and control protocols work again from the XP days. They're like, wait, what? Why? And I'm like, well, because they forgot about them, or the EDR, the AV, whatever you're dealing with, only has such a big library that it can kind of refer to, well, oh, now we've hit gen whatever of EDRs, and some of the big EDRs, the file, the system itself contains a small library, but then it all phones home to this backend that has petabytes of library style data. There's just, it's literally able to access the infinite knowledge base and come back and say, hey, that's bad, very quickly though. And it's like, okay, it's like you said, you've got to, and that's part of the problem that I see with this commoditization too, is I love the automation, I love the orchestration, but yeah, at the same time, I'm like, hey, if I've got 40 hours to do a pen test and you want it to be a good pen test, I need to know your EDR, AV upfront. You do have to drop me on a box. We have to do assume breach because, if you want me to do something good and not spend 40 hours trying to reverse engineer your EDR on your particular system, I got to get a little bit of help these days. And I do run into some clients who go, but that's not a pen test. I'm like, yeah, but me on the outside of your network coming in with a thumb drive trying to plug it in and it not working, do you want me to say you're secure? Because you're not. I know you're not. They're not. Most hackers are going to go, they're not. So I do believe that. That's why I said too, one of the things we have to start doing is as we automate a lot of this and we build, one button scripts to recon, one button scripts to test those vulnerabilities against known exploits. And then we go, hey, here's the misconfiguration testing, right? That used to be like the hot thing that I love doing the misconfiguration testing. Again, the responder to NTLM to SOCs to SAMDUMP. None of that was truly a single vulnerability. It was a bunch of misconfigurations. Well, if that's day 3 now, what do I do day 4 of the pen test? Well, at that point, I've got to start going, hey, this is the 10 areas. If I could tell you could improve right now and your network will be X% secure, that's the day I've got to do that. Because then day 5 of the week, the 32nd to 80th hour, I got to be writing that report, And so, yeah, you're going to have to automate. You're going to have to orchestrate. You're going to have to start relying a little bit on AI, LLMs, whatever you want to call it. I don't like the idea of calling AI, but it is ultimately, it is artificial level of intelligence. There is intelligence that is not me, telling me how to potentially streamline work to develop code a lot quicker. Hey, I need a bypass for this. And, yeah, if you're asking ChatGPT or Bard or one of those, that not going to get it. But if you're asking a local hosted LLM that you've taken all of your years of notes and as much of the internet's notes and, Phil and his books and you put it all in this LLM and say, learn this stuff. And then you're like, hey, how do I get bypast this? And so you're like, oh, by the way, it's simple. Turn it off. And you're like, you're right. I could just turn off the EDR. I didn't, there. But again, oh, well, that EDR, oh, you're dealing with that one. Can't turn that one off, but you can blind it. So you make you go out to MediaFire, you download an Ubuntu ISO that's 2.2 gig or whatever. You zip it up into a zip file, and then you extract it on the desktop, but you rename all these things. And so, but now that it's above 2.2 gigs, it's not going to read it through the AMSI. Boom. Okay, cool. Thanks, AI. But, how do you learn all that? I've learned all that through experience, but we've got to start training some of these younger folks and the models, with our knowledge. And, I do see folks like Jason Haddock's Res Zero, a couple of the other guys really taking AI seriously, really training AI to know those things. So it helps out the next generation.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting times.
What other questions you got, man?
So we're getting down towards the end of the show. Is there anything that you'd like to share that we didn't cover?
Let's see. I myself, I'm doing a lot of things for the Mentor Village still. I think there's part of me that's trying to find a way to go a little bit bigger with it over the next couple of years. Go to more cons. Probably won't be at the DEF cons because for a village there, we're talking 5 digits, I think, to get a village there. So, so I'm not a DEF con kind of guy. A little too big for me, but some of these more regional cons, if you run or are a what do you call board member, person of influence, and you have a B-sides conference, and you want me to come there, shoot me an invite. We'll see what we could work out. If you are a medium-sized, larger con, you want me to come there, shoot me an invite. Hey, if I can't make it, I've also started spending a lot of time working with folks who want to run their own career village or their own mentor village at their conferences. And I don't own that name, Mentor Village. I went out and got the Twitter handle for it, whatever. But if you're running a Mentor Village at your conference, let me know. And I can send you some of the pamphlets, paperwork, resume building tools, other things that I have. I have little QR codes. I have little NFC tap stickers that we write some of these URLs to. It's just got rules and resume templates and some of those things all for free. I'm not taking any monetary from this. All monetary proceeds are just donations to the community I run, DeadPixelSec. Again, I'll pimp out DeadPixelSec real quick. We're on Discord. It's deadpixelsec discord.gg/DEADPIXELSEC. So DeadPixelSec. We're on Twitter. But as I build out the Mentor Village, mentoring will always be free. Education will always be free. Some of the resources we provide will not. Some of those are. So a lot of folks spend some time building those, and we got to reward some of those folks. So. But when you see us at the conference, sitting down for this conference, it'll be free. Things like that. At Hack Redcon, if you're listening to this before October 2024, we'll be there. Little fact, I turned 40 that weekend. So I'll be having a good time. But that weekend we will be kind of doing our big step up. That's like I said, that's when we're going to have all some of these templates. I'm doing a talk about like branding, why you should have an InfoSec brand, why you should be trying to be a InfoSec influencer like Phil and myself, why you should do those things, because it does help you with jobs. It does help you with those things. Hey, you're brand new to the industry, start a podcast, start streaming, get on Twitch. Get your name out there. When people see your work, that's almost an instant job capability, right? So, That, those are things that I'm doing with the Mentor Village this year, is giving those talks, control alt brand, how to start your cybersecurity brand, why you should start your own cybersecurity company. And I'm not saying go out there and be another one of the fish in the barrel, but there's laws and things that are changing in the United States and other countries that, it makes it just a little bit better and safer, even if you just wrap your brand into an LLC, or whatever the equivalent for your company, and go from there. I'm doing a podcast with Accidental CISO on that. We're releasing a few of those. That's the things I'm really been passionate about right now. So feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, Discord, wherever, chat with me about those things. And, I've been helping a lot of folks actually start their companies recently. So it's been weird, this transition from mentor to get people into the industry and get OSCPs and get SANS certifications and get these like more, our CRTOs from Rasta Mouse and stuff. And it's been like this now interesting thing of, now let's get you your EIN, so your tax bill, pay your taxes, as much as we don't want to sometimes, but then, build up this like, hey, now I'm helping build companies. And it's just a weird transition that I've made kind of over the last 7 months that's been this year. So there's like, again, you want to be able to protect yourself, do all those things. And then also, it doesn't hurt to be your own boss sometimes.
Well, very cool. Well, thanks for joining me. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule. It was great, man, catching up and hearing what you've been up to.
I assume you'll be having a lot of fun these next couple of months.
Yes. Yep. I'll be at Black Hat and DEF CON next week, and B-Sides Las Vegas and Squad Con. So
enjoy, man.
Yep. So probably won't see you again until Hack Space Con, I think.
Yeah. April, good old April.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Phil.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to The Phillip Wylie Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, to learn more about Phillip, go to thehackermaker.com and connect with him on LinkedIn and Twitter @Phillip Wylie. Until next time.